All right, guys. Today I'm going to talk about how to leverage your 20s, how to maximize your 20s so your 30s are better and your life is better in general as you go through it. Because a lot of people squander their 20s, a lot of people waste their 20s, a lot of people abuse their 20s, I would say. They tend to just not have any foresight or think beyond being 20. And I'll say I was guilty of it too in my early 20s, but then I quickly got myself together. And here are some of the ways that I did it. First and foremost, it started with, for me, working out. Now, you're going to have to take care of your health in some way, shape, or form. You're not going to be able to sit on your laurels after you're about 25, if you're lucky. You're not going to be able to sit on your laurels. What you want to do is establish some sort of fitness routine, some sort of health routine, some way of eating. I understand if you're not, if you didn't come from a great background, if you're already overweight, if you're kind of already behind the eight ball, if you're already overweight or you're super skinny and malnourished. Either way, at this point, you're in your early 20s. You're hopefully out of the house, but at the very least, you're an adult now. So it's time to start taking the reins on your own life. So with that said, you need to establish a fitness regimen, because if you don't, you are going to gain weight, you are going to hurt, and your 30s are going to be a freaking nightmare. If you don't get on it, it's going to be 10 times harder to lose the weight when you're 30, 32, 35 than when you're 22, 25. So make that paramount, because this is going to be the easiest time in your life to do it. You're going to establish those gains. You're going to set that baseline of habits, and then you're actually going to retain that, because the early habit, it's going to branch off. It's going to become better, right? So that's a huge point, and I'm going to go more in depth with specifics on fitness and what to do to maximize yourself in your 20s, because working out in your 20s, at least for me, I've realized working out in my 20s looks very different from working out in my 30s, and it's a learning experience. So you have to go through it, you have to do it, and you have to pay attention to your body, pay attention to the feedback that it's giving you, and understand that you're not always going to be able to bounce back just like that. A lot of people take their youth and they use it to bounce back from like hangovers or partying or just, staying up too late. I'm telling you, use your youth to build a solid base that's going to last you the rest of your life, because this is your one and only body. You're stuck in it for better or worse. So it can be your temple or it can be your prison. And I'm hoping mine is a temple, right? So with that said, that's the first thing you can do in your 20s. Now, the second thing you can do, and this is kind of along the same vein but in a different kind of way, is invest in yourself. And I don't mean, right, taking care of your health, taking care of your nutrition is a form of investing in yourself. I'm saying invest in your head, invest in your knowledge, invest in your skill sets, because those are going to be huge as to how far you get from your 20s, right? A lot of people in your 20s, you're ending education, you're on your own, right? There's no more college, there's no more high school, there's no one forcing you to read books or to throw things at you to learn, forcing you to learn. But I'm telling you right now, keep learning. The average person I don't think they read a book after high school, like a full book after high school. Like 10 years later, they haven't read anything else after high school. So make sure you read some books. You can see behind me, I got my books. This is most of my collection. I've actually read all these books. It's not a lot. It's not a terrible lot, but it's more than most people have read, I think. And I read most of those in my 20s. I've drastically cut down on my reading just because I've become busier in my 30s, right? But regardless, a lot of those lessons stick with me, and they will stick with me better than books I'll read now, and they'll have less of an impact in my life, right? Because this is my early adulthood where I'm learning how to become an adult. So Life has been lived thousands and thousands and thousands of times. We like to think we're so super unique snowflakes, but the fact of the matter is other people have lived life and they probably lived it better. So get a little insight from them, read some of these books, and understand that you got a lot to learn. You don't know everything. And I say that even as myself. I used to be that. I think everyone is a little bit like that when they're younger, 18, 20. They know it all. They don't got to be told anything. And that's fine. I get it. You've got ambition. You want to go. You want to conquer the freaking world. But I'm saying be humble in the fact that you don't know everything and learn. Like, shut your mouth and listen to people who are older than you, because they're going to give you a lot of insight and it's going to allow you to make many less mistakes than they have. You don't want to be on the other side now being like, oh, I should have listened to X, Y, Z. And with that said, be careful who you take the advice from, right? If you don't want to trade places with that person, then maybe don't take advice from them. So a lot, and also unsolicited advice is worth exactly what you pay for it. So, if you've clicked on this video, you've at least sought out the information that's in the video, maybe listen to what I have to say. But if some guy sees you doing something and they say, hey, maybe you should do this, or maybe you shouldn't do that, look at their results in that realm and ask yourself if you want to trade places with them, right? I've had plenty of people tell me that I work out too much, too hard, this and that. I wouldn't trade bodies with them ever. So that's the whole point, is you don't take advice from people who you wouldn't trade places with, but take advice, and seek out people who you would trade places with and seek advice from them. Another thing, and the third thing I would say to do in your 20s is push as hard as you possibly fucking can, because this is the one time in your life you're going to have tons of energy, not a lot of responsibility. Push as hard as you fucking can. Read as many books as you can. Work out as hard as you can. Work as many hours as you can. Do as much as you possibly can. And I don't say that it's not an abuse thing. See, I feel in order to set a baseline, to set a middle ground, you have to experience the extremes, right? You have to do nothing for 24 hours, and you also have to have every second of the day filled to understand what the happy medium is. A lot of people, I feel, in this day and age, their baseline is so low that almost anything feels like too much, right? Perfect example, I typically try and get 10,000 steps in a day, right? But then I cranked it up, and I said, let me try and get 20,000 steps in a day. For reference, that's about 10 miles. That's a lot of steps to just walk, too. It takes a long time to just walk that amount of time, but that's a lot. And now, like, even at this point today, the day's not even close to over, and I've already done 11, 12,000 steps. The point is that you set a high mark, and then you might come back down, but your frame of reference is now larger. So you're like over here on the scale as opposed to towards the bottom. Whereas most people, it's like they struggle to get 5,000 steps in. And it's because they just sit there all day. So if their normal is 5,000, getting 10,000 is a reach. But if your normal is 20,000, 10,000 is like a light day for you. It's like a day off. So do that in every realm of life. I also suggest doing that with working out, because I've grinded my ass off working out. And now I understand what's sustainable, what I can retain, what I can maintain and still have like a social life and still have a work life and all this other balance and stuff. I feel to be balanced, at some point in your life, you have to be unbalanced. So if you want to ever be lazy, you need to work your ass off. If you ever want to eat cake and candy and pizza and all that shit, you're going to have to diet perfectly for X amount of months. Understand that these extremes will set you apart, and they'll set you ahead of like everyone else, where you can just keep pushing. You can just keep pushing. And so, then you'll finally have that feedback. I feel like I'm going in circles here, but you'll finally have that feedback from yourself to know what is pushing hard for you. And the catch-22 of it is, the stuff isn't linear. It's not like the maximum amount of steps a human can take in a day is 20,000. It's the maximum amount of steps that a human can take in a day is 20,000. That's not the case, right? But if you do that for once in your life, you might be able, or if you do it consistently over a period of time, you might be able to increase your capacity. So you're capable of more, right? A lot of people, like when I would talk to them, they say 10,000 steps, that's a lot. Wow. And I'm like, this is every day for me because my capacity is higher, but now I found my baseline and I can go off of that. So take those 3 steps to leverage yourself in your 20s. This is going to set you up for your next stage to where you're going to need to leap forward. You'll have a good baseline, right? Like if I wanted to do something right now competitively, even business wise, I wouldn't have the energy, the capacity, even just doing these videos, right? I take it for granted, but if you're overweight right now and you're not sleeping well and your nutrition's not on point, you're not going to have energy to come and deliver this after work. Your baseline is sitting on the couch and watching Netflix for hours and hours on end. So you're going to actually have energy in your 30s, probably when you're going to need it most. I'm still single, no kids, but a lot of people, all my friends have kids, right? Everybody has kids. They have wives. They have more demands than I could imagine. And they're running on less sleep. They got worse nutrition. They got all this extra weight they're carrying around. And that shit's tough. Life is only going to get harder. So grind when it's easy. When it's easy to bounce up out of bed and you can, get 4 hours of sleep and keep going. And you can work out twice a day and keep going. Work your ass off when you're doing that, because as you get older, you're just going to get more and more tired. The only thing that working out and maximizing all your other stuff is going to do is delay the onset of that. I've heard of people talking about, once you're 30, your metabolism changes. It does, but lifestyle changes too, right? You get more advanced in your career. You get more advanced in whatever you're doing. You just end up sitting more, right? You're driving more. You're in the office more. You're out looking at spreadsheets more. Whatever you're doing, you're not as active. You don't have all this time to go play outside or whatever, all these hobbies and activities. Your time gets sucked up. So be careful and use, that's what I'm going to say. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Use your 20s wisely. Understand that this is a very unique point in your life. It's the first time you're an adult and you can make choices on your own. So make them good ones.